Alright, so we modeled our clouds. So let's do one thing. Let's also set up the shader for the clouds. But before that, I want to make one small change, which is the HDR that I have been using for lighting. Like, let me just turn this on. Yeah, so the HDR that I have been using for lighting is essentially a commercial HDR, so I won't be able to distribute it. So what we'll do is I'll just change it to something that I can distribute, and I found a decent replacement for it. So let me just pick that up. So I'm just going to come in here. This one is downloaded from HDR Haven. I will add it into the folder anyways. This is a 1K map. Now, if you go on HDR Haven, you can get this all the way up to 16K. So if you want to use it as an actual background, you should be able to use it. Alright, so this is the HDR. And what I want to do is I want the light to come in from the left, like from the front of it. So we want the cliffs to be lit up, towards this side, and then nothing should happen over here. So I'll just rotate it to about, let's try 180 and see what we get. Yeah, I think this is okay. Let's try to get to about 200. Okay, let's do 190. I think 190 should be fine. This is fine. So we're getting this lit up towards the front, and then, this remains in the dark. As I said, this is a nice HDR. So if you want, you can download like the 8K version of it or whatever, and then use it for the actual background. Okay, so this is done. Now let's set up the clouds. So I'll just bring in one of the clouds for now. And I tried setting up, when I was testing it out, I tried setting up the volume shader in the material network, but that wasn't working. So what we'll do instead is we're going to set it up in the shopnet. So I'll just jump in here. I'll create a Redshift network. I'll call it cloud, or I'll call it cloud A. And let's just pick this up. So I'll come into cloud. Yeah, cloud A. And then come in here and type volume. And you should get the RS volume shader, which you will connect to the volume input. Now let's do a render and see what we get. Yeah, so that's the basic thing that you should get. So let's start making a few adjustments. So the first thing is I want this to be fairly light. Like, I don't want it to be this dense. So what you can do is you can come to the advanced parameter, take the density remap range and take the old max up to about 10. And you'll see that the density drops off. Let's try to get it to 20. See, so this is what you want, is a fairly light and fluffy cloud. Okay, so this is fine, like 20 is good. Then we'll just start adjusting it. So if you increase scatter coefficient, it becomes brighter. And let's do one thing. Let's set this to like a light blue. And then we're going to use the absorption coefficient to give it a color. What I want it slightly orangish. So let's get it here. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so this looks nice. And I can try, if you increase the absorption coefficient, it becomes darker. So just sort of play around till you are kind of fine with it. Let's get the old max down to 15. Yeah, this is fine. This looks perfectly okay. What you can also do is, if you want the cloud to be a little more stretched out or something, I'll push it back, and then we'll press E, and I'll just stretch it. Yeah, and let's take the bus. If I can select the bus, and I'm going to press R, and we'll just rotate it a little bit and move it up. So it looks like it's going, above the clouds. Yeah, let's also try one more thing. Let's select the cloud and make it slightly smaller. Yeah, I think this is fine. Okay, now we can bring in the other cloud as well. And what I'll do is I want this cloud to be slightly darker than this one. So we'll make a duplicate material. So I'll just take this, I'll do Control C, Control V. We'll call this cloud B. Come in here and change this to cloud B. And let's do a render. The thing I realized with clouds is you don't need to make them very detailed, because usually you want to keep them relatively light and fluffy. So there's no point in just unnecessarily, making a super dense cloud. You can keep it slightly less in resolution and it still works perfectly fine. Okay, so what I want to do is let's just come in here and let's lower this down to about 8. So it will be darker. Yeah. And we'll also increase the absorption coefficient to make it not that dark. Yeah, I think 1.2 is fine. And then let's come in here to cloud A and we will lower the absorption coefficient. So yeah, so this will be slightly brighter and that will be slightly darker. Yeah, so this looks nice. So this is the basic cloud shader that you want. Alright, so in the next lesson, what we'll do is we need to create some fog, and I also want to look or I also want to show how to make higher level clouds. Okay, so these are fairly low lying clouds, so they're sort of like big and fluffy. And then we want to create like the streaky clouds that you get very high up in the atmosphere. I know there are scientific names for it, but I don't remember them right now. So we're going to make streaky clouds in the next lesson.